warm good evening to all the viewers of Mike Hill and One India. Today we have a very special guest, a special individual who is full of positive adjectives, a brave heart, a fighter, inspirational, witty, and the list will go on. And like a real fighter, she also had to go through a lot of obstacles in life. Not that she didn't feel the pain. She felt the pain, accepted the pain, and moved on really well to be doing some great stuff in life at the moment. Back in 2012, when she was on a holiday in Cambodia, when she was expecting, she was also celebrating her 4th anniversary, expecting a job promotion as well. That's when she had to suffer a bacterial infection, which led to her losing her baby. And also that also led to the unfortunate incident of her losing her 4 limbs. But hold on, she since then she has rediscovered herself. She has a new innings to her life. And when she started running, that was for general fitness and health, which led to her completing the TCS 10K marathon in 2017. And then she went on to become the national silver medalist and national gold medalist at the National Para Games in 100-meter sprint. And at the Asian Games at Hangzhou in 2023, she also held the Asian record for the fastest women on blades in the T62 category. Apart from that, she also has been doing her corporate talks at big corporate houses like Biocon, Tesco, Xiaomi, Dell, Microsoft, Wipro, and many others. Welcome to our show, Shalini Saraswathi. Thank you so much for taking all the time. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, Shalini. So, of course, there's a lot to chat about you, about your journey so far. But first of all, on a positive note, your experience at the Hangzhou Asian Games, I'm sure that must have been some of the best days of your life as an athlete, because you got to meet so many different athletes, different countries, totally different environment, away from the home country. There somewhere there, and then meeting all those different athletes, sharing different experiences. How was it like?
It was absolutely, I think, the like the cherry on the cake, I would say.
Yes,
it was absolutely a life experience, especially for someone who comes from an absolutely non-sporting background, right? Like, it's not like I was ever into sports or any of that. So I got into sports as well post my disability. So no reference points, and I never, when I was able-bodied, ever thought of being at any athletic event. So from there to then transition to be at the Asian Games was absolutely awesome, and it was great to be able to represent the country. The experience of having to meet so many people in different countries and different athletes, and I think the experience is also when it's people with disabilities. I think it's a lot more different than able-bodied athletes as well. And it was nice. I mean, it was just like one big family. You're meeting people, you're talking to random people, and they had this I never knew this you have these India tags. You given these clip-on tags, right? So the whole thing is that you try and exchange it with other countries, and you get on your tag as many other countries as possible. So it's like almost like you're like these drug dealers in different places, where you're like saying, I have this, do you want this or not? You end up having a lot more of conversations with a lot more of people, because you want as many badges as possible, right? So and I kind of got a lot of countries on. So I think I more than the running, I actually enjoyed that.
Absolutely, yeah, of course, yeah. Yeah, I mean, talking about that as well. I mean, how was your preparation like? Like you said, you were a non-athlete to start off with, then evolved as an athlete, so to say. So how was the preparation like? Because going into a big event, no matter what, even though you might not have that many expectations from yourself, because you just evolved as an athlete. Of course, by now you're more pro than ever. So how was the preparation like? I mean, on what term did you really prepare?
I think, see, it took me. I started my to even start trying to run. Like, the first time I ever went to Kantirva Stadium in Bangalore is in April 2014.
Oh, okay.
That's when I mean, I had prosthetic legs, and when I got there, and I met my coach BP Ayappa. I don't think we ever thought about running at all. It was just to be able to make sure that I could walk back, right, and just kind of accomplish the very basic things in life. And then we kind of figured we could run, and we started to run, and we did the TCS, like you said earlier. We did the TCS in 2 consecutive years, over 16 and 17.
Oh, really? Okay.
And that was when we got the blades, and then coach said that we should try professionally. And when I started out, I don't think para athletics was as big as it is today.
Yeah.
It was still a very nascent sporting field. People were still figuring out what it was. So I think I got a bit lucky because I was one of the people that were there at the start of it.
Oh, okay.
And I was also one of the only blade runners in India, and the only quad amputee even in Asia that ran.
Okay.
So the most amount of disability people had, like even at Asian Games, were a single leg amputees. So there wasn't anyone that ran with me. So I think the whole experience of training to get to that point has been very different because was that coach himself had never trained a person with a disability, right? He was never into para sports.
True.
So we had to really adapt from, like, even coach had to learn how to teach someone to run on blades. So we had to go back to a lot of research in terms of what other people were doing, what they look like. We went through various phases of trying to get something for the hand support to kind of do my start. So we went through various stages trying to figure out how we could even start running, right? Like, especially as a 100-meter sprinter, your start is very important.
Yes, start is very important.
So it's very important. So, we really struggled with, because there was no way I could do a block start with both my hands pinned down, which is what most people do. Because again, I had a disparity in the way my hand length were. So, we made something where I could rest my hand. From there, we then kind of transitioned to various techniques, and then we found some video of someone who just stood straight into that, and then we said, okay, we're going to try that. So it's been a very trial and error kind of a process for us, right, where we've learned, unlearned things over a period in time. I then went on to Peak Performance, which is my sports and physio place that I work with. And then, I had a whole lot of people then that did a lot more of research in terms of how do you train a person with a disability, what exercises I could do. So it's been a lot of work for the people that have worked with me as well, right? So it's been intensive. It's been a lot of training, and it took me 9 years to get to the point to go to Asian Games.
Oh, really?
So it was 9 years of being at it every single day. It's about being at practice every single day. We did we did a couple of international competitions as well. We did Dubai, we did Sharjah, we did China. So we peppered that, and we did all of the Indian competitions as well. So the prep has pretty much been a lot of exploratory. It has been a lot of trying to understand what we could do and what we cannot do. And then over a period in time, I think we found other people with prosthetics, and we've tried to learn and adapt from them as well. So it's been a lot of intense hard work and tears and falling and all of that as well to learn through, right? So yeah, it was tough, but it was worth every bit of that, I would say.
I'm sure. Yes, it's one of a lifetime of a moment, right, for you? Yeah, sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. Now, talking about the Paris Olympics, Para Olympics, that is still on. How much do you? Yes. So, how much do you think we have evolved as a country? Of course, we have got some great athletes. World record holder Sumit Anthil in javelin. Then we've got somebody like Avani Lake, parachuting. Then we've got Krishna Nagar in para badminton. Of course, also earlier we had Deepa. So we've got a lot of good world-class para athletes, so to say. But how much do you think we have evolved? Of course, a lot goes around.
Absolutely think like in my own, like through my own eyes, I'm seeing how much. I think there's a lot more of funding that is going in there. There's a lot more, and I think with the para athletes winning more medals than the able-bodied athletes in Paris or in Asian Games has really brought the sport to the forefront. And I think there are a lot more of people with disabilities wanting to give a try at it, which I think is great. And I also see, like, in terms of how the nationals are held to the various, I think we've gotten cleaner, slicker over a period in time. And today, I think the issues that I think we're far more people with disabilities competing to want to get there. So, which I think is a good problem to have.
Absolutely.
And I've seen how it has evolved over a period in time. Like I've seen it over the last. I ran my first official race, I think, in 2017. That was the first time ran the nationals, and when I compared that to what happened maybe in 2022, I think it's far more well organized. It's you have a lot more clarity in terms of what categories you belong to. I think, earlier it was a lot of speculation in terms of what category you would belong to. And that's the crux of para athletics, right? I think it's a little more organized and people kind of know. And I think with the constant exposure that people are having to it, I think it's evolved. And of course, we have a long way to go as well. But I think surely we're heading in the right direction.
Yes, yes, really, glad to know about that, because it's high time that we evolve overall as a sporting nation, be it able-bodied Olympics or Paralympics. That's the way to go. Coming out of your, of sports a little bit and coming to general life. Life in general. How much do you think India as a country has evolved in terms of disabled people, uh, getting the inclusiveness in the society? I'm talking about inclusivity in the society in terms of they getting government jobs. Of course, it could also lead to a very basic thing like a sitting arrangement in a park or maybe in a bus. How much do you think we have really evolved when it comes to inclusiveness as a society for disabled people out here in India? Of course, there's still some way to go, but how much do you
Not
think that?
some, we have a
Oh,
lot of way to
lots,
go. I
lots. I'm
think
sure. Yes.
infrastructure wise, I don't think we're anywhere close to where we need to be, right? Like
Mhm.
if you're talking about public transport
Yeah,
today,
yeah, yeah,
I don't think anybody with a disability can today confidently get onto a bus or a train and travel.
yeah.
I think there's really a long distance to go there. I think infrastructure in terms of like cities and maybe some buildings, a lot of corporate organizations, the ramps and all of that is there. So, those are probably a bit more accessible. But I also feel it's a function of privilege. If you are in an affluent family and you
Oh,
come from a certain amount of
yeah.
money and
Yeah.
have that, then I think it becomes easier as a person with a disability to get your life around and go. But the stark reality today is that a large percentage of people with disabilities are in the rural areas and are absolutely disenfranchised. And I don't think they have the infrastructure that they need, or even let's forget infrastructure. I don't think they have access to prosthetics or orthotic devices. I don't think they
True.
have access to schools. One of the most basic things, or even to the healthcare systems, right? So today I work for Rise Bionics, and we're in the space of making orthotics and prosthetic devices. And one of the things that we have CSR programs, and I see that one of the things that we're trying to today give free prosthetics away to children with disabilities. And the thing that we're really struggling is to find these children. Not that they don't exist today,
Oh,
but the
okay.
point is that they're so
Yes, yes.
enfranchised that we're not able to. They're not even in the system for us to track them around. So I think definitely there's so much more to go, and this a really a long distance, and of course a social stigma that is there as well, right? Culturally as well. We're not very open to having people with disabilities, and we're definitely looking at them as more a burden than being empowered individuals. And I think that comes with, and you backtrack, that it goes back to being having an education and being financially independent, neither of which are happening. So the minute that too is out of the picture, there is no way you can be empowered if you're not financially independent. So I definitely think that there's a huge space that needs to be filled in there. I think the policies to a large extent are there, but I think the proof of the pudding is always in its eating. I don't think we're able to deploy those policies as well as they should be, right? There are policies to say that you have to give jobs to people with disabilities, and there have been so many, and I think there have been places as well where I've read that those roles which are opened up for people with disabilities are intentionally kept open, so and after a period in time they're filled with able-bodied people.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think I think those are problems. So policy wise, I think the policies are there, but I think implementation, we have a really long way to go.
Now, talking about the prosthetic implants, the blade that athletes like you use. One is that how do you actually source the thing, and also secondly, for example, I play tennis. So basically, the rackets that is used by a power hitter, for example, that's different from somebody who use a lot of spin or soft spin. So likewise, do you have different? Again, sorry for my ignorance. Again, do you have different prosthetic? Implants in terms of the body type, say for example, of course it's depends on the potential energy, the bounds and stuff like that, or is it regular for almost everybody?
No, so your prosthetic, the it's weight driven, right? So there are different kinds of prosthetics, and they will choose a prosthetic basis your weight. That's the first one that goes through. And of course, the first question that your prosthetics really asks you is, what kind of usage do you want, right?
Okay.
So do you want to just walk? Do you want it to be essentials? Do you plan to be a heavy user? Do you want to use it for sports? So I think the prosthetics vary from each version of that, right? So your prosthetics vary in terms of costs, basis where you want to be. So even in terms of blades, what you would use for running will be very different to a blade that you might use for javelin, for example. The requirements are very different
Okay.
because you might need to pivot when you do a javelin
Oh, okay.
or throw a discus or any of that, right? They need to have the pivoting. But when if you're if you're wearing a prosthetic for running, it's to ensure that you're moving forward. So obviously the prosthetics are very different, and they come in varied types, forms, etc. But they are extremely expensive. So it's not something that a lot of people in India can afford. And I think that is one of the biggest challenges that we have today,
Yes.
with being able to allowing people to have a dignified life. A person with a disability is purely a factor of that it comes at a very big expense, and it's not something most families can afford. So so even with your prosthetic legs, the ones you can have something with torsion, you can have lateral, they can allow you to climb stairs. They don't. Then you have the very basic Jaipur leg, which is given away in India, which is basic wooden legs.
Yes, yes.
So I think it all varies from what your usage is and what your weight is, and obviously they recommend basis what that needs to be from different companies. Yeah. So in
Yeah.
India, in terms of manufacturers, I think there is just one or few companies that do that. The most high-end prosthetics that you can buy, and which you would see that most of the athletes that use, are typically Acer or Ottobox, and that's German and Icelandic companies.
Okay.
So that's what most of us in India use, if you have the money, that is.
Oh, okay, okay. I guess again with the import duties stuff like that, I guess that's where.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
the most terrible part is that we have GST on them, which
That is,
again is
yeah,
a
yeah.
ridiculous thing for
True,
us to do
true.
policy wise,
Absolutely.
because here is a prosthetic device. It's not a luxury,
Yeah, it's
and people should be allowed to have
true, true. I think
be allowed
at
to
the
have a
policy
prosthetic without having
level,
to pay a
yes, yes.
GST.
I guess a lot has to change at the policy level. That's when things will change automatically.
Sure.
I guess. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Right, right. And talking about the training, I guess you train at peak performance, Yash Pandey.
I do both. Yeah, I do train at peak performance. I train with Dipali Pandey,
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
the better half
Right.
of Yash
Yes,
Pandey,
yes, yes. Okay. Mm.
and yes, and I have my trainers as well. I have Pavan as well as Harish that I train with. So it's like a team. There are three of them, and they take turns to kind of make my life as miserable as they possibly can.
Yeah.
And then I train with BPI up at Kantir Vasid, who's my sprinting coach.
Right, right. Right. So typically, what would be your training schedule? I mean, how do you? I'm sure it's a little bit different from regular training, right? So how do you actually approach? Maybe you approach when you are towards the fag end of a tournament. I guess your training schedule also change. But typically,
Yeah.
in a normal day, how do you approach your training? Because one is your regular training at peak performance, which is strengthened.
Yeah, I do the thrice a week.
Okay.
I do the strength and conditioning happens thrice a week, which is the Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
Oh, okay.
And the other 3 days, which is the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturdays at Kanterva Stadium. So the
Oh,
runnings on those 4 days.
okay.
But like we said, like if you're getting competition ready, then it's very intense, and
Mhm.
it's
Yeah.
hardcore, right? Because you're training to run better, you're training to make sure you have better strength training. You're focusing on particular muscle groups, you're focusing on your glutes, you're focusing on your quads and your hamstrings to make sure that you can run better, right? It becomes very intensive like that when you're doing strength and conditioning, because you're focused completely on making sure that you get power with your legs to be able to propel forward, and of course your arms as well. And then for me, it's additional because because I use the blades. We do a lot of functional training to be able to hold your core, to be able to balance better. Because as you're on a blade, especially when you're increasing at very high intensity, especially what will happen is that even a little bit of wind can shake you up. So it's very important to have very good core strength and having better stability as well, because that's the only way you can control the blades, the blades, right? Then for the blades to control you, it becomes very important for you to be able to control the blades.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, yeah. So that means you've got no off day. I mean, both peak
Yeah,
performance.
you don't have, and yeah, and you also want to make sure that you're not falling flat on your face.
Yeah, true, yes, yes. Yeah. Now, talking about, I mean, I know whatever you're doing, you're doing it for yourself, and rightly so. We all do, whatever we do it for ourselves. But at times, I'm sure, for example, at peak performance, when you're training for yourself, somebody, uh, again, he's entitled to feel tired. He might, sit in some corner and then he'll just take some rest, and then might get inspired by you. Okay, she's still doing it. Does it put a little bit of pressure at also in times, even though it's a positive pressure, but I'm sure, we are
On
all,
me?
yeah, that, okay,
No, there's no pressure on me. It's always the other people that are more pressure than I am. Because, it's easy. I'm a person with a disability. I can always sit down and say, listen, this is so tiring. But no, like, I think I have a great team at Peak Performance, and um, I don't think they give me an option to say that it is not possible.
Okay.
And I think it's what I really love there as well is the fact that they keep it very varied. They understand what my needs are, and there's a lot of option in terms of what we want to do, and there's a lot of thinking that goes in as well. So if you look at the videos that I have on Instagram as well,
Yes, yes.
it's a lot of adaptation. It's things that we have done. So I remember like 2 weeks back, I was training with my trainer, and they had a new person that had joined in, and we did one session where we did weights and we did like a lot of hardcore things. And the new girl then turned around and said, I was thinking that how are you going to be able to do all this? And I'm thinking like I didn't know that we could do all this with you. So I
Oh,
think like and I was saying that we've transitioned over the last 6-7 odd years, even at peak, with how we started our exercises to then figuring out how much we could push myself.
yeah,
So I don't think, and I don't think people around me also are pressured. I think we're fairly
yeah,
okay. I think we give off good energy to each other, and sometimes you're just there to do your own thing,
yeah,
right? The rest of it really doesn't
yeah.
matter.
Yes, yes. So, I mean, by default, the environment that is created is good for everyone around. So that's it.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yes, yes.
True, true. So, I mean, you are also at the same time a poet. Of course, you are an articulate person. You have, held a lot of corporate talks. So, was it is it something that you already always been doing right from your school days,
No.
college days, or you evolve as a, over
I
time?
mean, school
Yeah,
and yeah, I mean, school and college. You do your debating and
yeah.
you do your theater, and I
Mhm.
mean, I was always on stage.
Okay.
But I was more a singer and more a dancer and
Oh, okay.
all of those things, like more arty,
Okay.
than sporty.
Okay.
My God, that rhymed. Uh,
The poet,
so,
after all.
it was all that, and sports was very like I think like I've always said this. Yeah, I was part of Blue House,
Mm.
and you ran. I think I did the relays and things like that in school, but you never ran in school because you were best. You were the best of the
Yeah.
worst because nobody knew to do anything, right?
Yes, yes,
And
yes.
you just had to get your points for your sports,
Yeah, yeah.
for your house. And I think it was
SFPW.
just that. Yeah, exactly. And then I think I did like I was again part of the volleyball team in school.
Okay.
But I think even when we did the volleyball as well, we only got into it because I studied in a convent, so we were a girls only school.
Mm.
So it's the only opportunity to go to another place and meet some boys. I think it was just that and nothing more than that, right? So none of our intentions were
Mm.
ever were ever any good. So I think we did. So we just went in there to do, and so we were all my friends were on the team, and it was just chalo, we'll just go have fun kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it was never anything serious at all. Um, so yeah, why were we talking about this? Sorry, I forgot the question now.
No, I'm talking about you being a poet and also being very
Oh,
articulate, and because
yeah. So so
yeah, yeah,
so I mean, being able to speak and being very articulate always came very naturally to me.
yeah, that's right.
I've always loved reading, so
Mm-hmm.
I've always loved the words and
Mm-hmm.
what it stands and all of that. I don't think the speaking bit it didn't come through like yes, at work and all of that I've always gotten stage, and it's not something that I'm nervous about. After my disability and after the stories came out of the running, the
Yeah.
first TCS
Mm-hmm.
was when I came out in the newspapers and there was a big splash and
Oh, yeah.
Facebook to this
Mm-hmm.
and that and articles and da da.
Yeah, yeah.
uh, and then I think I had a couple of people who reached out to me to say that would you come out and speak to us. And initially I actually didn't want to because I just thought um, it's absolutely about going in front of a bunch of strangers and talking about the most vulnerable parts of your life, and to lay it in front of a bunch of strangers about probably one of the most toughest times of your life is not the easiest thing to do. And I remember Amma telling me that don't do this for yourself, but you never know who in the audience really needs to hear your story.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think
Yeah.
that was one of the
Yes.
primary reasons why I ever started out.
Yes.
And I remember when I did my first conversation, I did it with Tesco, and I finished it, and there were a lot of people that came and spoke to me, and then I had this two women who stayed back and they waited till everyone went, and then when they finished they came out and they said, can I give you a hug? And I said, of course. And they said that I'm going through a really bad time in my life, but I feel like I can go back and deal with the rest of my life. And I felt that was the chiching moment for me, right? That said that yeah, this kind of makes sense. And then I love to talk, so that kind of fitted in perfectly, right? And then I got to make money as well out of it, so I'm like,
Mhm.
hey, why would I
Yeah,
not
yeah.
do this? And
Obviously.
then, of course, you get to stay in some fancy hotels and some of the most five-star
Yeah, yeah.
places.
True.
You can eat any food. You can order some of these desserts, which you can't even spell for heaven's sake. So those were all the additional perks of having to do that. So I thought, yeah, why not?
Well, yeah.
So it's been a career now of being a motivational speaker for a while now. So yeah.
It's a combination of all the good things.
Yes, and like they say, right? You never really know. I don't think I ever thought of all these things ever happening in my life, right? Of ever getting into sports, of ever running professionally, of ever running into the Asian Games, of ever being a
Yes.
motivational
Yes.
speaker. I think um, things have just happened in my life, and I've grabbed onto everything that's come
Yes.
my way.
You're right. Yeah.
Even with the hands missing,
Yeah.
I've managed to grab onto things. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. That's a mentality of a winner, I guess. Winning mentality. Good, good. So let's have a few rapid fire round. A rapid
Oh, okay.
fire.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is
Anyway,
there
this
is there a
is
gift hamper? Is there a gift hamper?
yes, yes. That's when we meet you
Oh,
personally because now it's virtual.
oh, okay.
Otherwise, we're going to give you virtually.
Very smart, huh? Very smart, huh? At least you should show me the hamper, no? Like that in how Karan Johar shows on his show. Ki, this is the hamper you can
Then
win.
only I'll tell you the answers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, your favorite restaurant in Bangalore? You being in Bangalore, then
Oh no,
maybe.
that's a tough one. There's just way too many things that I like. There are way too many things I like. I like Paradise. I like China Pearl in Kormangla.
Oh,
I like Rice Bowl in Lavelle Road.
oh, okay.
I love airlines. I like Koshi's. I like the 13th floor. I mean, I can go. I think we can stay on this call forever and tell you about all the places I like. And then there used to be. I also love the street food. So I like the Thele Wala Chinese
Yeah,
and fried rice.
that's very.
There used to be this
Yeah.
guy in Indranagar,
Uh-huh.
on Indranagar 100 Feet Road. There used to be this guy with this, you could go late night and eat fried rice. And there's Anna Lakshmi opposite to Emphasis in Alsur, that
Oh,
again, small joint, great food. I mean, it was Anna Lakshmi and we used to call it
hmm.
Anna's
And
in those times. But
to make it
yeah, so,
more fancy.
anything I would,
Hmm.
yeah, any food, anywhere I will eat. I mean, with my training now, I don't, but like
Right, right.
food
Yeah.
is Food is life.
Life, yeah. It's very
Yes.
MG Road dominated. Rice Bowl and your Koshi
Yeah, rice.
Airlines.
Actually, a lot of those places, yeah, and a lot of those places are actually more nostalgia
Yeah.
because, as growing up, being from Bangalore,
Yes.
Rice Bowl and all was one of the places that you went like years ago, and one of the most happening places. It's so dark that you can't see anything. I mean, of course, it's refurbished now,
Yeah.
but just a lot of those places are just good memories, I think.
True, true, true. Yes, sure. The craziest thing that you would have done with your friends.
Oh, that's a lot again, as well. I
Yes.
don't know how much of it I can say, but I think we used to do. I think the craziest thing, some of the, I don't know if they're crazy, but in today's environment, they're almost borderline, very, very unsafe to do. So I wouldn't recommend anybody
Mhm.
does it at this point in time. But we would do these really late night uh, car drives on the outer ring road,
Okay.
and there were these small thelas at 3 o'clock in the morning that
Yeah,
we
yeah.
would have chai.
Oh, okay.
And there were just truck drivers around at that point in time. I don't know what we were thinking and why we were
Yeah,
thinking
yeah,
what we were doing.
yeah.
I think sometimes, yeah, I think those were some of the most craziest times because we would finish. I worked in the outsourcing space for the
Oh,
largest part of my life.
oh, okay.
So night shifts were a
Nice.
part and
Yeah.
parcel of my life.
Yeah, yeah.
So just getting out after your shift for either we would go to MG Road Savera and have coin paratha and
Okay.
chicken and chicken,
Mm.
or then have a chai in one of these places. So I think those are some of the most I think today in retrospective kind of dangerous
Yes, yes,
things to
yes. Yeah,
do.
yeah.
Yes.
That, like you said, you didn't recommend at the same time. I mean, those are the times that we're going through. Yeah, true, true. A tricky question.
Uh,
Maybe I'm trying to put you in a spot. Your best friend,
no, see,
or
it's a
maybe
group of people.
it's like an open book. I can.
No,
It's
I
not a
think
secret anymore.
so my friends, I've had friends. So I'm one of those very lucky people who've had friends from class one. So
Hmm.
my best friend from class one is Sapna, and we're a group of eight of us that have stuck together from school from class five onwards.
Hmm.
And we're a bunch of women that have been through thick and thin of life. So
Yeah.
there's Sapna, there's Usha, there's Vani, there's Beena, there's another Sapna, and then there is Vanita. And now I think there's an Anshu as well.
Yeah.
So I think I just have. I mean, I think I've been very lucky with my friendships in life. So most of my friends that I have are people that I've known from my teens. So there's Prasanna, there's Satish, then
Yeah.
there's people who I've known all my lives, and we're just a bunch of people that have held on to each other all my life. So there's no tricky question of having one best friend. I think there are. I think this is about it, right? Like you have different friends for different things. There are
Yes,
some
yes,
things that you can
yes,
tell
yes.
some
Nicely,
friends,
yeah, nicely put.
and
Yeah.
there are some things that you
Mhm.
tell other friends. So I think for me, I'm very lucky that I've had all kinds of
All kinds
friends
of
that I
friends to
can
cover
share.
up everything.
Yeah,
Yeah, true, true, true,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
true, true, true. Thank you so much, Shalini, for all,
Thank you,
yeah, yeah, for all the beautiful stories that you have, and wish you all the best for the rest of your journey.
thank you.
And stay yourself. And by default, of course, your positive energy only inspires. So not that you have to try too hard to inspire anybody else. It's just that you doing your own stuff for yourself, it in itself is a big story for others. And you have already inspired me, of course, and that's why I made sure that you come here on in my interview. I didn't leave you. I still remember I tried once, I think 1 year back, somehow couldn't bring you. And then I've also been,
I think we
tenacious.
chatted with each other a
Yes, yes,
long
yes.
time back,
On
right?
Insta and all. Yes, yes. But
Yeah,
I've been
yeah,
tenacious
yeah.
enough to finally bring you on board. And yes, I thank my stars for that. Thank you so much, Shalini, and keep doing.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, Shalini. Thank you so much, and keep on doing the things that you have been doing, and stay true to yourself and be yourself. Thanks, Shalini.